As we have seen in the title is "Do you really need product owners?" So I hope that's going to be an interesting and entertaining discussion for all of us. I was just sharing a few minutes ago a personal story with our great panelists that I actually had a dream today with this panel. So I already know what they're going to say, but instead of just telling you what they're going to say, I'm going to invite them for some discussion. Okay, so product ownership is a difficult and challenging role, as we all know. I personally think that it's fairly misunderstood, fairly poorly defined within a Scrum framework. I'm not entirely sure how much discussion and disagreement will our main somewhat provocative title or question generate, but we have a lot to cover. We have quite a few discussions to touch, so I'm sure that they will have some interesting conversation. Okay, so without further ado, I would like to introduce our great panelists. From my left, I guess, Tomek Szymański-Szymano from Software Mill, CEO of Software Mill, then Kate Terlecka, founder and professional Scrum trainer at Brass Willow, Jakub Nabrdalik, Head of Software Development in Poland at For Finance IT, and finally Łukasz Banach from Codility, product owner at Codility. Maybe you guys could just give us a bit of background yourself about your role in each of your companies, so that the audience can know a bit more about you and kind of that you are kind of entitled and credible enough to take voice in this discussion. Me? Maybe you can start with you. Yeah,
I'll start. I'm the first on my right. Okay, so I'm a CEO of Software Mill, so that makes me the chief of the company. But the company is flat now, so I'm not really a chief. So I don't know what am I doing here. But I've been working in many different teams. The first one I started with was the team was actually a product owner. It was a JBoss, and then we had designated product owners. Then we had clients who were product owners. So I've seen different people doing that role. So maybe I'll have something interesting.
Okay, thanks. Kate.
Hey, hello everyone. I'm Kate. I've been working with product owners for like 6 or 7 years now, quite a few. I am a professional Scrum trainer. I am a Scrum Master by heart. And I have always been the right hand of many product owners that I've been working with. So I've seen the product owner's role from being a product owner, but also from the side, from being the Scrum Master, for being the part of the development team. And I think they're actually very needed. But okay, we'll see.
Thanks. So that's all from you for this conversation. Okay, Kuba.
Okay. So I'm Jakub. I have about 13 years in this industry, making software for money, as an analyst, a developer, team leader, architect, solution architect, software architect, then finally as a manager. I've been working with product owners for like 4 years, and now I'm hiring product owners as well. So I see these two sides of the job, and also I've been doing the same kind of work way before there was even a concept of or naming of a product owner.
Okay, thanks. Łukasz?
So I'm Łukasz. I'm working in Codility, and I have 10 years experience in product management area, and especially in product owner area, like 5 years. So I'm responsible in Codility for all about product in one of 2 teams. So I think this product owner role is easy role. It's quite simple. It's like invent the idea, push to developers, and finally after finish the sprint, check requirements. It's easy. And for example,
and send the invoice.
The rest date, for example, to play on the console. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So as you can see, we have wide range of perspectives, which is great. I actually want to start with somewhat of a backstage story. when we were organizing this conference, we really wanted to make enough space for product owner-related stuff. So we even invited Roman Pichler as a guest speaker. I don't know how many of you know Roman Pichler. He's quite famous, kind of within Agile community. He's doing a lot of work within product ownership. He writes a lot of stuff on his site about product owners, and he refused. With saying that product owners don't come to such conferences, which made us sad, but we didn't have kind of a good argument against it. So I just wanted to ask you whether he was right, and if he was right, why he's right or why he's not right. Maybe anyone wants to start?
Maybe that's a question for you. Who's a product owner now? So he wasn't right. Thank you.
But do you think that product owners have something to find here? So next time we talk to Roman, we can tell him what kind of brings people, what brings product owners to Agile conferences, in your opinion? I mean, we discuss a lot about process. We discuss a lot about practices.
Okay, so from my perspective, the job of the product owner may be as easy as you said, but in corporation, that's not the truth. But basically, what you do is that, look, you try to like have way wider skills than just being able to define what the product is, right? And so conferences like this are actually giving you a choice, because you can learn a lot about. Product owner quite often does the job of a Scrum Master as well, or mixes this with development as well, or does the requirement gathering and analysis as well, or sometimes does the modeling. These are different areas, but not so much, and actually a smart person can do all of them. So definitely, good product owners can learn a lot from going to those conferences, even from joining software conferences like Java conferences or alike.
Yeah, it's like Agile conference, yeah, and Scrum is part of Agile. And for example, product owner role is part of Scrum role. And for example, one of the most important thing in product owner role is like communication. And it's a lot of presentation, a lot of informal talks about how to cooperate with other, development team members, with UX, analytic guys. So it's like a crucial part of product owner role, how to communicate, how to understand other people's point of view. Yeah. That's why.
Okay. Anyone wants to add anything? Well, we can just send a note to Roman, then you were blatantly wrong. And later on, I can just take a picture of you guys with your hands raised. Okay, the first topic I would like to touch is product owners and other team members. I don't know how many of you have been on the product track earlier on, but a lot of conversation was around resolving conflicts, crossing the borders, kind of getting out of this us and them mentality. What's your view on where does product owners belong to in terms of the team? Is it the team and the product owner? Is this just one team with the product owner? Kasia?
It's actually a little complex because there are two teams. There is the development team and there's the Scrum team. The development team is, of course, closer together than they are with their Scrum Master or their product owner or basically anybody else. But then there's the next level. So the development team is bound together by the common goal, the sprint goal, every sprint. But then they're also bound with a common goal with their product owner and their Scrum Master, which is the product vision, which is the product goal. So in those cases, actually they are going in the same direction. So I'm not 100% sure if the Scrum team is really a team. It is a collective that goes in the same direction. They do share a common goal. That's great, yeah.
But by Scrum team, you mean the team? Does product owner belong to this team that you're referring to? Yes,
the Scrum team is as the development team plus the Scrum Master plus the product owner. Yeah. So if we have actually a good Scrum Master and if we're collaborating with the with a concrete product owner for a longer period of time, that Scrum Master is actually obligated to make them into something as close to a team as possible. But then the product owner will always be a little on the side. He's the one that has the money. You hate people having the money, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so as I said before, the developers are from Mars and the rest is from Venus. And this is basically a very natural thing that the developers, they like their toys, and their main goal in life is to have fun with the technology, if they're passionate, of course. And then there's the product owner, he wants to make money. That's disgusting, okay? Because we're not for money, of course. So now the role of a product owner will be to convince the developers that whatever they're doing has to make sense, but both they need to understand what's the vision of the product and what are they developing, but also that it needs to make money. And then also the development team has to convince the product owner that there is some level of fun that the developers need to have, otherwise they just change jobs.
Okay, and maybe Łukasz, this is a good question for you because you're the only product owner on the panel. How do you feel when you talk to the team? I mean, is this your team? Is this some team you're a customer of? How do you see this?
I feel quite good about this question to the team, if you are okay with me. But from my perspective, it depends how the whole company is organized. Like, if only development team is cooperating with Scrum, or the whole company is organized in Lean or Agile form. And it's like product owner role is inside the team and outside the team at the same time. It's like inside the team to build the atmosphere, and we are responsible for release new product. We're responsible for your work and for giving, for example, great product to customer. And outside at the same time, because it's like sometimes forward management role to, for example, collect information, gather data from other departments, to talk to other departments, yeah, to represent a different point of view, and finally, for example, forward this point of view to the development team. It's like the same.
Okay. And why do we only have one product owner for a team? And not necessarily a question to you, maybe Kuba or whoever, if you want to answer, Łukasz.
You would like to actually have several stakeholders talking with the developers directly? Oh, come on. Business has got different ideas, even if you have a project, right? And I have a large company there. There's like, I don't know, maybe 15, 20 people interested. Now they have conflicting ideas. They would like to push for something different, right? You want to unify those things because you need a single backlog. So you need to have a single person at some point, whether it's on the business side or on the IT side, doesn't really matter. But it wouldn't work any other way, right? Too many people that have conflicting interests. Somebody has got to negotiate with all of them.
And go on, yeah.
With big products, it takes usually several Scrum Masters to actually gather the stakeholders together to make them talk to the one product owner. And if you have multiple product owners, how the hell are you going to organize that? Besides, there's an example that you might heard of. It's called Apple. Ever heard of that? No? Okay, sorry. Then there was that guy, his last name was Jobs. He passed away some time ago. He was a product owner. He was actually a very good product owner. You could learn a lot about product management from him. Don't learn about human relations. He sucked at it, big time. But he was a really, really good product owner. And look at one thing. When he was still the chief of Apple, how many products did Apple produce? There was an iPod, iPhone, iPad, the Mac series, and I guess that's it, right? They wanted, and few supporting services. Right? They wanted to introduce the iPad mini when he was still around. He wouldn't let them because he wanted to keep his products as the highest possible, at highest possible value and at the highest possible quality. And this is how much he could do. So one person is able to manage 4 products in the most valuable company on earth. So why can't you, as a product owner, manage, I don't know, 100 people?
But are you sure he was a product owner? Because from my perspective, it looks like he was a product manager. Okay, he was designing the product and just talking about how he wanted it to be, right? He wasn't the product owner who would actually create the backlog for the team.
But maybe create requirements, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Or, well, requirements come from the stakeholders, right? So from that perspective, I have product managers as well. And I'm talking about the people who actually design the product. They work on the business side. They are not part of the IT at all, right? From my perspective, that was his job, not really being a product owner. And one more thing, you've noticed that he was shitty at actually communication, right?
That's
From
true.
my perspective, communication is the main feature of a product owner. You cannot be a good product owner if you have bad communication skills.
To some extent, I have to agree, but there is always a
You're
but.
wrong.
No, it's where do requirements come from? It's not actually the product owner's job to collect them. It's the development team's role to collect requirements. It's the product owner's responsibility to order them, to assign value to them, to show how important they are, to actually tell the product team what they're supposed to work on first, but not collect them.
So you say, for example, development team is responsible for collecting information from sales team?
Absolutely, yes.
But you know what? On the corridor here at the conference, there is this Scrum guide, an illustrated Scrum guide, and he actually says that the product owner is responsible for it, and he may have
Is
and he may
responsible for
use
what?
his team for help. But actually, he is the guy who is accountable for it, and he has to organize this and describe all the requirements.
He's accountable for requirements. That's true. It doesn't mean he has to write them.
Yeah, but from your perspective, it's more a job of the team itself, and actually the product owner is there just like, I don't know, I will prioritize this after you get this done.
Oh, no. He's prioritizing all right. It's only the supply of requirements is actually the development team's responsibility. Let's have an example of a really true product owner. Anybody from the audience ever built a house? Yeah? Anybody?
Yeah, we have some people.
Yeah, some people, yeah. You are product owners. You are the owner of the house, of the product that a development team in form of those guys in overalls, running around over there, laying bricks. You were the product owner of it. You expressed what you wanted there to be done, right? You said that you need, for example, 5 rooms. You know how exactly this is supposed to look like, or approximately that you want to have a large common room on the bottom floor, and then you need a cellar and stuff like this. So you expressed the requirements, but who actually put them down? Who actually drew them or described them? Was it you?
If you are an architect, yes.
Exactly. So if you're an architect, if you're a requirements engineer, being a product owner, and you can help your team in that, sure, go ahead. But it's their responsibility ultimately.
I think it boils down to the question, who does the business analysis? So what Jakub is saying, that it's a role of a product owner. And I don't agree with that. I think that doesn't have to be.
I didn't say that.
No, but I just put it in your mouth, so that's that makes
I
it
love
true.
you guys.
Yeah, but no, seriously. But you're saying that
Kind of sounded like this.
yeah,
I mean,
product owner has to gather the requirements.
Okay,
and
so let me
write them down.
elaborate. What it says.
because you said earlier
what the
that there is a
Scrum guide-
difference between product owner and product manager. Maybe
Yes.
if you can explain this.
Okay, because it's not visible and it's not in every single company. Companies are much different from each other, right? So when you have a product manager, it's the guy who's driving the product in terms of actually getting the money out of the stuff that we build, right? If you have a product owner in such an organization, usually there's several product owners per one product manager. He works on a high level, they work on a lower level, and then you got teams, right? And from my perspective, product owner is part of the team as well. Now, you may have much smaller projects, like your house, that you are the single person. You can even build it yourself, so you can be one in all, right? But altogether, the requirement bit actually, from my perspective, it goes to the developers because they have to understand the situation. So how it works in practice for most of the people? Well, it depends on the situation you're in. For some product owners, it makes perfect sense that they describe the right user stories, the right use cases. They are doing modeling, process modeling, everything, right? In other situations, when you have external business analysts, they created the business flows and processes, and the job of the product owner is much simpler from that perspective because he has got to verify whether all these stakeholders and analysts actually make sense together, and then give it to the team as a single backlog of stuff to do, right? In smaller teams, in smaller projects, you don't even need a special external product owner because the team has got to learn themselves, and the amount of the requirements is so small that the team can do it. There is no need for external analysts or whoever else. So in each of those cases is completely different.
Yeah. Okay, so I mean, I guess it just depends, and we have that's one of the reasons for all the confusion. There are so many different ways to define the product owner role in different organizations. I just wanted to kind of summarize this because Kasia mentioned Jobs as an example. So who of you thinks that Steve Jobs was a product owner? Okay, 3 to 1. But we have.
I don't know the guy.
We have only one Steve Jobs. We don't, in fact. But there are a lot of product owners' roles to fill. Not everyone is like Jobs, and I mean, you mentioned before that it's okay. We only have one product owner because we don't want to deal with all the stakeholders ourselves. But isn't it kind of swiping the problem under the carpet? What if product owner goes on a holiday? What if if she or he goes sick? I mean, how do you manage this in your role, Łukasz? Like, you're the only product owner. If you go off sick, what happens? Everything kind of slows down and.
Yeah, it's ideal situation, for example, that we have 2 teams and 2 product owners. So, for example, when I'm on holiday, Tomek, for example, I can, for example, provide inputs from my team. But, for example, in other situations, it's like it's great to have a self-organizing team, for example, who know requirements, for example, and, for example, is well organized to communicate with other departments. So it's like, sometimes I try to define and I know write down some user stories and, for example, meet on refinement or product planning, and, for example, spend the rest of sprint preparing, I don't know, other tasks or communicate with customers. I love communicate with customers. And, for example, finally, look on whiteboard and say, we close this task and it's done. So it's like, for me, when I'm on holiday, I try to prepare some tasks in advance. And, for example, be sure that any of development team members understand business goal and, for example, can provide new stories or, I know, new improvements.
Okay. So I guess we are back to everyone doing the product ownership role in a way, or kind of contributing
for the success of team.
Do you agree? You guys agree?
Yeah, I just want to add that a common problem that I've seen before, especially in big corporations, is that someone who is a product owner, maybe sometimes they call project manager, whatever they just call it in the organization, are trying to insulate the developers from the actual client. And with that, if you do that, then if your project manager / product owner goes off sick, then you're in trouble. But if your developers are working with the client all the time, then there will be no problem that if the product owner is off sick, they'll be able to get new requirements. It might be not the most financially making sense requirement, but at least they will have something to do, and they will not waste money.
Yeah, if you actually have a refined backlog, if it's a huge backlog for a big product, you will have to have it refined for quite quite a piece of work forward, right? If you I don't know, get to an accident, get hit by a bus as a product owner, still if you're keeping a rolling projection of your product backlog, your team can still work for a sprint or 2 or 3 or even 4 without damaging the business value of the product.
Okay. Okay. Let's move on a little bit. We touched this earlier by I don't know who mentioned this, that there are a lot of different skills required for product ownership role, and in fact that role seems to be very difficult because of that. You know, you need to understand business analysis, you have to have vision, you have to be a good leader, understanding the customer, the domain, you know, all this plus negotiations, business orientated, etc., etc. I mean, how to cope with all that? That's the first question. And how to find people able to do all that? That's the second question.
It's much easier than finding good developers, because even though you think that it is a complex thing, it is a hard thing. Definitely, product owner role is a hard thing to do, but it's not as complex as actually understanding functional programming, object-oriented programming, domain-driven design, test-driven design, and everything else up down to the metal level, right? So actually, and looking at the time that you have to invest to learn all those skills, right? It's much easier to become a product owner, and in fact, it takes much less time to become a good product owner than it takes to become a good developer. So, is it difficult? Actually, I'm looking at the market right now, and it's much harder to hire good developers than good product owners.
Do you guys agree?
No.
Not everybody agrees.
But that's my perception based on the CVs that I get.
Łukasz?
So you think the easiest way of recruiting people is like to recruit a good developer than good product owner?
If we are talking about the complex job and we are talking about Java backend in a distributed system, then it's definitely harder to find somebody with experience in Java distributed systems and concurrency than to find a good product owner.
Why? It's like a good product owner is like not only communication role and not role based on hard, analytics skills or any other skills. It's like to have a good mindset and good understanding of the product, not only hard skills. And for example, as we mentioned before, good communication skills. So sometimes for me, it's when I'm in a recruitment process, recruiting people, for example, to Golden Line, it's like hard to find proactive people. Yeah, not reactive people to the market, because it's a disaster when a company is preparing new tasks in customer-driven development or team-driven development. Yeah, so it's like for me, of course, IT market is market of employee in Poland. But for example, a good product owner is not well-defined role. It's like a lot of people experience in product management role, and for example, they don't know how to, for example, organize backlog, how to communicate with people, are focused only on one product, for example, and communicate only with, board members, not only with any other department in company. That's why, from my perspective, is definitely the hardest way to hire a great product owner. Maybe the better way is, for example, to coach people from inside your company. From sales team. Yeah, they have a great communication skills. Then, for example, collect from the marketing.
Exactly. So, would you rather coach somebody from the sales team to become a product owner or to become a Java backend developer?
Yeah, of course. It's easiest because these people know, for example, how this company works. But for example, it still is like a product owner from my perspective is like a conductor in an orchestra, yeah, and developer is like a good guitar player in this orchestra. I like playing guitar.
Okay,
maybe Tomek? No?
Yeah. I think that it's a very good tip that you should look inside your company for a product owner, because we haven't talked about that yet, but product owner is basically someone who knows the business well. And if you have someone in your company who knows the business already, then he might be the perfect fit. Having said that, coming back to what Kuba said, I think you might be trapped in a tunnel vision, because since you are a developer, you have a developer background, obviously. So it might be easier for you to when looking at CV, to say that this developer CV is bad, but you might not be able to do that with product owner CV.
Okay, so I could give you I'm not prepared with the numbers right now, but looking at who we hire and how fast can we get a new developer and how fast can we get a new experienced product owner, still the market is better for developers in that there are mostly scarce people. Basically, it's easier to get good product owner. But and I'm not saying it's easy to get a product owner altogether. I'm saying it's easier than to get a good developer. That's the thing.
Why not? Because I'm from Codility, so we're testing programmers. So it's like we're able to prepare tests for programmers.
Now talking about the tunnel visions, right?
No, not only. But for example, try to prepare a test or for example exam for a good product owner.
I would say that you cannot prepare a test or an exam for a good developer.
Any other form of, for example, be sure that this guy is good for this role in this company, because it depends on the types of company also.
Okay, so maybe let's try to focus a little bit. We talked a lot about whether it's difficult or easy to find great or good product owners, but what actually makes a product owner exceptional? What's the difference between a great product owner and an average one?
Vision.
So what kind of things to look for effectively when you're hiring a person for that role?
I don't think you can actually hire a great product owner. You can hire a product owner, but I don't think you can hire a great product owner. There's a nice graph showing how the role of product owner and let's say a return on investment on a product owner grows depending on what kind of a product owner that is. And on the lowest level, that's still Scrum, but it brings very little value. It's an analyst, basically. So an analyst could be a product owner, but he's only passing information from the team to the business and in return. The second level is someone with a managerial position from the IT side. So it would be someone who not only passes information around, but also makes some decisions, but only on the technical side. Then another level, a little higher, is someone from the business. Yeah? So someone from the business that already understands the business conditions to actually make the product successful. This is still a little better. He can't make decisions on the business side, but it's at least it's something. Then another one, and this one is already a big thing. It's something called someone from the business with mandate. So this would be someone that the responsibility for conveying the vision was given to him, along with all the budgeting and resourcing and stuff like this. Yeah. So this would be someone who is completely responsible for the success of the project. But the highest possible level is something that's called either an entrepreneur or a mini CEO or fully a CEO. So it would be someone, yep, we have a beautiful example here. It would be that kind of the entrepreneur, that mini CEO. Are you the mini or the full CEO?
Full CEO.
Full CEO, okay.
Let's look at him.
Yep. So that kind of a CEO is completely responsible for everything, including coming up with that idea. So he's the owner of not only the product itself, but the idea and the vision behind it. And this is what makes the great product owner. I wish you all, to have a chance to actually work with someone like this. So with someone that came up with the idea for the product and is actually making it live. Anybody had a chance to work with someone like this, so who came up with that? You call them vision owner.
Yeah.
Yep. Sure. Why not? Yeah. I would say this is the best product owner you can get. I wish you all working with someone like that.
I know you said it's not possible to hire a product owner or a great product owner, but we sometimes do. And how do you look for people with vision, or like what to look for, or is this the only thing that we should look for other things important.
I don't think you can hire someone who has a vision of your product. But if you hire someone who knows the business that you're in, that's already something very important. And then you can sell him the vision. So,
Then you have that product owner with mandate. It's still a really, really good thing, because sometimes a person that comes up with the idea for the product, they just can't physically take care of it in time extent needed for managing that product, and just give it to someone who knows the industry, and this will be good, not perfect, but really, really good.
But this would actually make perfect sense to hire somebody without any idea about, okay, we need a new product, and just hire somebody very good, ask him about what would you like to build, and have him build that product together with everything. Hire a good product owner without having a vision for him, just finding his vision.
so
It's possible.
You'd like to hire a product owner who will build you a startup?
Well, I
pretty
guess
much without the risk of a startup, because the only difference between the highest level of yours, the guy who is a CEO, right, and him having a startup or being able to be hired is actually who pays the money and who takes the risk. If you have a large company, you can have several startups there inside, right? Because you can afford it. You can afford the risk, fail sometime, win sometime, right? And me, myself, well, I still have bills to pay.
Yeah, it's a venture capital.
I mean, I guess products have their own cycles, and there can be different stages, and also we can look for product owners for different ventures. As Michał was kind of hinting me from the background, that effectively we shouldn't mix the situation when we are looking for an idea that is a startup idea that we are not entirely sure that how much money will bring or generate, and that for that we might need a CEO with a vision, but then we also can have a well-established product or a well-established company where you already know where to dig. It's just how well you do the digging. Yeah. So I guess, I don't know, maybe Łukasz and Kuba were referring to the latter case. Or Kuba, in fact, I guess you're working in such a company where you already know where to dig. It's just you need to find a way to how to do this effectively, or not.
A little bit, but I think that we are playing here about naming conventions, and I don't really like that because it doesn't really makes much sense. You have somebody who's pushing forward. You have somebody who wants something happen and has got, like you say, the vision. Doesn't really matter whether he's called a developer, architect, product owner, CEO, whatever else, right? Of course, in large corporations, this is a problem because he's not a decision-making guy. But basically, it doesn't really matter that much what position he's in, because you can drive those things from the bottom up. So we are playing here about the naming conventions. Is it a CEO? Is Steve Jobs a product owner or a CEO or maybe an IT expert or whatever? Who cares, right? Either you're successful or not. The thing is, what do you do? What do you do on your daily basis?
Well, I mean, I care. For example, if I have a company and I want to figure out a most efficient way to set this up. Yeah, so I can look at the Scrum guide and read, what roles are there, and I can think to myself, okay, I will find the developers, I will have a Scrum master, and I have a product owner. But hold on, how do I find a good product owner? Yeah, so this is what I'm kind of I'm trying to get at. Yeah, because we already have this role. So assuming that we think that this is a role that's needed, we need to find a way to fill it. That's my point.
The question is why we define roles in companies. Why? For example, to have a better product, or to have, for example, well-organized job, or for something else. It's like, for me, it's a few common indicators of good product owner. It's like well-organized. It's like assertive. It's like someone who have a chance to say no for the boss, for the other of team members. So it's like someone who have a vision for the product. Of course, anyone in a company could have a great vision, but it's like a product owner, someone else could, for example, have a chance to realize this vision, or, for example, spread this vision, share this vision with any other people in company. Yeah, and for example, it's a product owner in Scrum, in Agile.
If it comes to the naming conventions, thanks for that. This was actually very important. What I experienced a few times is that the product owners weren't actually called product owners. There was somebody else that was making decisions from behind the analyst that was actually given the name of the product owner. Yeah. So I completely agree that naming conventions sometimes don't make sense at all. If you want to find the person that's actually making the decisions, follow the money. Simple.
Right. Also, I think vision is one thing, and there's also responsibility. So, even in big corporations, even for finance, there's a product, and the product consists of some sub-products, let's say. And even there, the product owners are responsible for their own field. And with that, you have one person responsible, for example, for one component of the system. And now he is responsible to make improvements. So he has to have some vision. Because if you don't make improvements, then other companies will do that. And you'll just lose the race. So even if you have a well-established product, you can't just stand in one place. Because you just die. And so for that, it's also very similar to startups. But then you won't have single guy, obviously, that runs 14 countries with 3 products everywhere. So you'll have just guys responsible for small fields.
Okay. Let's stay a little bit longer on this topic, but change it a little bit. You've all seen product owners during your career, either as CEOs or leaders or coaches or product owners. Can you give some stories of exceptionally good product owners or some situations when you felt that some product owners behaved in a very appropriate way or very exceptional way, and also bad examples? I mean, situations to avoid or you kind of remember as not that great. I mean, of course, without giving names, unless you really want to and have permission.
Unless it's us, right?
Unless it's, I mean, not kind of blaming each other, but unless you, Kuba, talk about yourself, that's fine.
So I have a few examples because I'm hiring product owners. I have product owners, and the best ones are the ones that you find out that the team loves. And by loves, I mean they drink it with him. They have his poster with his face, with his photo on the wall, right? When he's gone, for example, because he moves between countries, and the business loves him. And usually business has love-hate relationship with him because the people, well, they have to have balls. Even if they are girls, they have to have balls to do this job. So what happens is that business is like, okay, now we have a new important product, and I'm talking, okay, this team will handle this, and this product owner will handle that. And they say, wow, yes. So then you have, then you know that your choice was good, that was a good person, right? And the other situation is very simple. If the product owner gets fired by the team, it's a bad product owner, right?
But by fired, you mean like the team can effectively fire?
Yes, my teams are self-organized, right? I have the situation. I have a position of a team leader with three more things about him to verify whether a team is actually a team. But basically, the team can say, okay, we don't want to work with this guy. And whether he's a developer or a product owner, when the cooperation is not there, the team is dysfunctional. You have to change something, right? And I've been in a situation when the team was actually, okay, let's fire the guy. He went for vacation, came back, and there was no more of his team right there.
Okay. Any other stories, interesting situations you would like to share?
I used to work with product owner way back, almost 6 years ago. He was quite amazing. We were working on a test tool, and we had approximately 10,000 people using that tool all around the world. It was an internal tool for a bigger company. He wasn't able, it was one of those weird corporate common tooling whatever organizations where you have basically no budget. It just syncs everything you throw in there, and people throw as much as they can because they think that this would be for the good of the organization. So interesting thing is everything was funded, but nobody was actually taking care of the budget. But he really wanted to know how much does it cost to develop elements. He wanted to be responsible before his customers and his team on how to do this. So he started calculating everything by the how much does it cost to hire a developer in this concrete, actually a person in this concrete site of the company. So he actually started. He came up with how to budget when he had no idea about the money that were running around. This is the kind of a product owner that this team loved. They actually made him a special stamp with his picture on it. He was in a pose like this, and they stamped everything that he liked with this PO approved. Yeah, so they loved it.
Made from a potato, like a stamp from a potato.
Actually, they hired a professional company to make a special stamp, like a. It was amazing. Yeah, he delivered tons of value, and he actually made a product that outlived 3 or 4 of his competitors.
Any other comments about stories? Okay, so this is a question to Łukasz mainly, because you work as product owner. This is somewhat related to my previous question, but maybe you were just too shy to brag about yourself, so I'm just going to ask you directly. How do you work as a product owner? What kind of tools do you use? What kind of techniques do you use? I know, mental models. I mean, because, okay, I know that's definitely not only about communication and having a vision. There is a kind of stuff to do. And how do you manage this within Codility?
For the first, you have to be honest with your team. Yeah, it's kind of communication skills also. And for example, when you join to the company, you have to build trust with the team. People in your team should trust you, and for example, trust in your decisions, for example, and your vision. And back to tools, it's like you ask about hard tools like how to organize.
For example, or I don't know, how do you do? I mean, I'm just kind of throwing ideas here, like A/B tests, or what kind of data do you use? Whether you use data, how you said it's not user-driven development, but maybe it is a little bit. Just
so it's like a question is any task for I don't know which product owner is not responsible for. That's like his combined role between UX and analytic and I don't know sometimes a leader in this team. So it's like UX, for example, some tools to create mockups to share with the team to, for example, show the story. And tools like, of course, some analytics tools like Inspectlet, of course, Google Analytics, and any other similar tools, and tools to organize everyday job. Yeah, it's like to prioritize backlog. We still use whiteboard, and we have system to prioritize in electronic boards. It's called Taiga. It's open source, and for example, my personal tools, like to communicate with team members like Slack or HipChat, and tools, for example, to prioritize my personal work in company, like Wunderlist or Inbox by Google. Yeah.
And
a lot of different tools changing every month.
An interesting thing I've noticed is that very good product owners actually kind of start to learn to program because they want to be able to find out themselves without actually involving the developers, just asking them, well, I can check it out myself. I know.
Find out where the bug is? Or
no, how the acceptance tests are actually defined, for example, and what are the conditions inside. Well, if you have a large project, then sooner or later the business has got no idea what's inside, right? Their requirements, people in the business change as well. So then you have acceptance tests, right? And you can read that. And so why would you actually ask anybody if you can read that yourself, right? So this is the thing that they start with and then like go further. And so the product owner actually asked me for some training on using the repository, for example, right? Then he was reading a little bit of some books about the kind of tools that we use for writing tests. So he can check this out himself, right?
Any other comments about that? I think that's very important what you've said. That this also shows how wide the expectations can be. I mean, in order to do this job well.
Yeah, in the perfect situation, you have one person who can do everything about the product, including the programming, testing, doing the product owner job, and having a vision, right?
And you said 30 minutes ago that they are very easy to find.
Excuse me?
And you said that they are very easy to find.
So how many of people like this do you know? Because I know a few. Okay.
You are looking for developers with product owner in one person.
I'm looking for one person that can drive the whole thing from the bottom to the end, right? So
Skills to do.
Exactly, have the skills to do it. And the interesting part is that there are people actually who have such broad skills, and then they have the interest in actually some part of it. So they are like, okay, you know what? I can do the programming. I'm not a very good developer. I can do that, but I don't want to do that because I'm mostly interested in actually the soft side, discussion, negotiations, vision of the product, stuff like this. And then you have the people on the other side, guys who are like, okay, I can do the product owner job, but you know what? I like programming very much, and I would rather spend my time doing the programming. And that's the perfect situation when they can cover the whole area.
Okay. Okay, let's move on. Another topic I would like to discuss are common risks, mistakes, and anti-patterns. We kind of touched this a few times today, but I would like to get a kind of deeper dive into this. What are the typical mistakes that PO make in your opinion? How to avoid them?
Being a monkey.
Elaborate.
Only passing information, not making decisions, only acting on whatever somebody else says. That's it. So not making decisions, not taking risks, not taking responsibility. That's the biggest of them all.
So to be reactive, not proactive.
Yep.
And from my perspective, have too many projects at the same time. Yeah, it's a risk for product owner. For example, to be distracted for such different type of projects in different teams, for example. So it's like 2 less product owners. We have 4 teams and 2 product owners. It's like a problem for the whole company finally.
I agree with that, but it's more about not about the projects, but like domains. Because I have the situation when I have product owners for 2 or 3 teams, and they say that they can handle that as long as the domain is the same. So if I'm doing payments and I have 3 teams for payments, it's okay, because I still do not have context switching inside my head, right? But if I were about to switch between 3 different products, completely different products, then it's a huge thing, and there are different people who I need to discuss with, and so on. So that's a difficult part. I agree. Too many and product owners, because they want to be good, they want to show that they are good. They want to handle as much as they can, and at some point they should just say, oh, you know what, stop. We have to hire another guy, or I cannot take that much.
And it should be a simple clarification. Who is responsible for this product? Because sometimes in company, for example, it's a product owner who is responsible for this product, and for example, some guys from board members who are also, they think that they are also responsible for product owner and for the product. So it's like disruptive, yeah.
I also heard something important that you said. It's the project versus product. Sometimes these are project owners, not product owners. They're not working with a product. They're working with either just a part of a product or some initiative that spans multiple products and gets them together. No, for something like this, if you would like to have a project manager, go ahead. A product owner is therefore a product, so a physical thing that you can actually box and sell.
And sometimes it's an area owner or area manager.
Yes. Okay, so it all depends how you set it up. If it works, right? If it doesn't, it doesn't. What I can tell about the things that I have observed, because I don't have the full picture of all the product owners, I have just a few of them, right? But what I can tell you about the problems that or actually mistakes that they do sometimes. I've noticed that some product owners want very much to be in the shoes of a developer without having his skills. So a situation when a product owner would come over and ask and would request or require an explanation for every single thing the developer does. It's very close to micromanagement, but he's not a manager, so there is no micromanagement included. Well, yes, but it's pissing the developer off just as well, because you don't want to explain every single thing you do to somebody who doesn't have the right knowledge, right? So I've noticed this part when the product owners were digging too deep into the technical details when they should just leave it and trust their own people. And that was one problem. And the other, the most popular one, when they want to be so good for the customer that they'll never say no. They are just like, okay, oh yes, we have to do it. Yes, it's even worse than just passing through the messages, just being a router. It's just like, yes, we can. I will handle this, and then being very, very soft. It takes.
Yeah, and we have to prepare it tomorrow. Yeah, it's a great idea.
Yes, because we have to do it, right?
Yeah. Over-promising without asking the developers.
And over-promising, for example, for sales team, yeah.
Yeah. How long will it take? You need to ask the guys who know. How long will it take? I had the situation when I was asked how long a task will take, and I told them, I don't even remember, 3 months maybe. And they said, oh, but it has to be finished in a month because there's been already an article in the newspaper that is going to be out. So... And then, of course, yeah.
And one more thing came into my mind actually about that there is this problem with product owners talking about the business value and assuming that the developers are the guys who actually are not interested in the business value at all and are like, okay, we are just kids that want to play with tools, right? Which is completely not true. Most of the people that I know and all of the people that I have are very much interested in a business value because this is the money. If it's not flowing, you won't have the job anymore, right? And they kind of like each other and like working there. So they are very much interested in the value. And what happens is this. A product owner who's very much interested in the business value, looking at the backlog, right, and talking about the sprint backlog, and then the team says, all right, but we have to do refactoring of that, and we need to actually do other this tools here. And he says, why? I don't see a business value there. And they're like, yeah, your problem. We have to do it, otherwise we'll dig in a very big shit later on, and we will not be able to maintain this. And then you have a problem because the product owner who doesn't have the information, the technical knowledge to actually understand the situation, and the team that has got the technical knowledge are on the opposite sides, right? It shouldn't be like this. You have to trust the team, and the team has to trust you. I've seen product owners who were trying to do micromanagement of those tasks, and it gets ugly, right? You have to understand your own limitations as a product owner, just as when you're a team member and you're just a developer, you have to understand that the refactoring that you would like to do, we may need to deliver something faster, right? So these are trade-offs. You have to cooperate there.
It's not possible to check everything or control everything. Yeah. So for example, you can trust, for example, your development team or maintenance team, but or sometimes, for example, agree to take 20% of each iteration time, each sprint time, for example, spent on bug fixing things or maintenance. Yeah, it's also a good idea sometimes.
There's one more. It's not an anti-pattern. It's actually a pattern. A very good practice. I think you can tell a good product owner by the fact that he's actually deleting functionalities. Just like you can tell a very good developer by the fact that he's deleting code. The same with the product owner that if something's not used or is barely used, get rid of it, toss it.
Okay. I'm just thinking, like, if being a business analyst is not right, business and UX designer is not the stuff that they should do. I mean, product owners, being a developer is not the stuff that they should do.
If you have time, why not?
What's left?
That's why it's easy to hire them.
Maybe let's just not have this role and have the UX designer, and because everyone knows where the value is, and like we will just do what brings value.
Sometimes good product owner is the best sales manager. For example, when you meet with your customers, for example, you are the only person to, for example, explain all the best advantages of your product to the final customer.
Okay. Okay. Let's move on. We have there's one last topic that I have planned to cover. We have half an hour, so we might use the full half an hour. If not, we can open this to questions from the audience. So if anyone wants to have a question, just think about it, and we'll find some time for that later on. Before I move on to the final topic, which is around business value and business context that you've raised yourself, I have a question for the audience, for you guys. How many of you have seen or talked to your customer in the last 7 days? Just raise your hand. Okay, I think this is around 30%, maybe. And a similar question, maybe slightly different one. How many of you have talked or seen a user within the last 7 days? Even less.
Oh my, oh my.
Do we have a problem here? And this is not only a question to you, but generally to the community around, finding our business context. I mean, if we don't talk to our users, if we don't talk to our clients, who do we talk to?
Yeah, it's crucial because when you are not able to contact or talk with your customers or users, it's like you have feedback or information only filtered by, for example, sales team. Only, for example, raw data from, Google Analytics. Yeah, it's like when you ask people, you have a chance, for example, to ask them why, when, why you need this feature, when you need this feature, why it's important for you, why it's helpful for you. So it's like product owner responsibility to ask sometimes a group of people, a group of customers, for example, meet with them on, for example, sales meeting and ask directly about the product, about improvements. It's like almost no one from customer side says, you have a bad UX. It's your role to see that, for example, some people have a problem. For example, how to, pay for your product.
And from your perspective, who are the customers or the users? And do you meet them in your role? And if yes, how often?
Yeah, often. So I have every week I try to choose 2 or 3 customers, different customers, and for example send for example some question to them, or for example call to them, or for example prepare some survey, or observe some strange indicators, for example in Inspectlet or Google Analytics, and for example try to find these people and ask, for example, why do you have a problem with this feature? What the problem is from your side? Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, coming back to the kind of little survey that I've made, we talked a lot about being involved, being business relevant, having a vision. How do you stay business relevant if you don't talk to your users or clients? How do you experience this problem in your environment? How do you cope with that?
If you don't talk to your users, you actually disconnect yourself from the market. Simple as that. In some cases, you are in a very lucky situation when you are the user. In that situation, basically you know what to build because you're using your own app, but it's not always the case. Then if you don't talk to your user, stuff like, for example, products that nobody wants to use happen. Simple as that.
But there are other ways as well. I mean, you can first of all try to monitor business metrics. And if you have A/B testing on production, why not, right? Canary releases, all these kind of things. Because if you are like always talking with the customer lies as well, and your user lies as well, and his behavior is completely different than what he actually communicates, right? If you got people who are offended by the Facebook, I don't know, security measures or lack of them or whatever else, or the privacy, right? And then you have a few million users more, right? And so you can verify those things without moving from your desk. If you're good, if your setup is good, and if in other cases when you're working and creating software for a back office internally, then you have to talk with the people. And again, a very interesting thing happens. You got stakeholders that order the software from a software house, and they want something. Then we go to the administrators that are going to operate this software. They want something completely different. Then we go to the users, and we find something completely different. And to be successful there, we need to find somebody who will defend us against the situation when someone will say, well, it doesn't behave the way I want, but it behaves exactly the way everybody else wants, right? And if it's not useful for the goal, because the goal may not be actually, okay, we need UX, right? And it's got to be sexy and cool, right? But maybe the goal may be not to have a very good interface. The goal may be actually to be painful, but
increase conversion, for example.
Yeah, exactly, right? And you can increase this by being painful, right? So you have to find who is the main not even the stakeholder, but like who will defend you when the hard times come, and who will actually be able to go there and recommend you again for another project because you did what was necessary, even though some of the customers were like, I don't like it.
Yeah, so I mean, my question, I guess, was not really about meeting or talking to them, but just ways to stay connected. Yeah, you said that there are other things to stay connected, which is great, like metrics.
Yeah, but because of course final decision is PO decision, yeah, filtered but based on this feedback from these customers, yeah, not only business metrics.
Any other suggestions or examples how to manage this, how to stay connected? We talked a lot about vision earlier. You guys, at least some of you, come from a kind of product-focused or products-focused company. Do you have a product vision in Codility or in for finance? If yes, where it is? Where is it? Who owns it? Is it written somewhere? I'm just looking for the audience, I guess, for tips on how to manage this when we have a product.
Yeah, we have a vision and mission, and for example, some simple goals to measure this vision. And for example, sometimes it's a common problem with Scrum and visional and long-term goals, because it's like sales team sometimes need mid-term and long-term goals, and Scrum and Agile methodologies are like iteration, and so no mid-term plans. So it's like, for me, vision is a simple focus. What to do with our product, focus on product, focus on customers, and based on this vision and mission, you have to prepare some simple, metrics, some simple KPIs, goals, how to measure your success, for example, to know when you failed, and for example, which type of projects are, for example, the best for you in this moment to, for example, increase your sales or growth.
Do you think the team at your place knows the vision and where they're heading?
Yeah, we are great sticker with a vision on our walls, and
not only on the jumpers, I guess.
No. But
which is also a way to connect. I mean, and stay relevant.
But the crucial part is like to connect vision with projects. So, for example, to explain people why we're developing this project, because it's like connected with our vision, with our revenues or traffic.
Kuba?
I have a much larger scale, I suppose. I have several products in a lot of countries, most of them like in many different countries. So the situation gets much more complex. And what happens is that quite often the business has got the vision before we even start and can tell us what they want to achieve by this. And on the other sometimes, well, the software team actually starts thinking that the business has a vision and finding out that the guy is being recruited, the guy who should have the vision actually at the moment. So it's a mixed bag. It happens differently depending on the situation, the team, the product, everything, right? So what is important is that from the product owner perspective, okay, he is the last guy who can take the bullshit out, right? The team itself wants to create something that makes sense. And when you have conflicted interests from different stakeholders in the business side, it may not be possible. So it's a job of the product owner actually at the very end, if it's not done before by some product manager, whatever else you have, to actually find out and propose something. You know what, people, I understand your needs, but this is what we can prepare so that it fits all the markets and all your requirements a little bit and enough for you to achieve the goal. And then he sells that idea, right? So it's a much more complex situation. But if he lets the bullshit pass and just people are working on stuff because it's in the backlog, because it came through the email and just got forwarded, right? You don't have motivated developers. You don't have good developers at the end because the good ones will leave.
And I'm not sure whether I got this. I think you talked a little bit about the company vision as a whole. Is there such thing as product vision as well in your cases? I know we are doing again something that's written, something that people can just look into and say, okay, so we are doing this because of that, or is it just the product owner? You can always go to the product owner and ask her, why we are doing this.
Maybe it's not written down, but when we are starting bigger project, for example, like for 3, 4, 5 sprints. So it's like we're meeting, and for example, it's my role to explain why we need this project, for whom this project is, how to measure the success for this project, after releasing this project, how to help us growth, for example. It's like it's like a big KPI or a big goal for this project. Maybe not a vision like we have a vision to build a great. It's only a project or product. Yeah, we have a written down vision for the whole company, not for the.
Maybe now a question to Kate. You work as a coach. You've seen a lot of companies. Do you have examples of companies that actually struggle with a vision or product vision, and they're just kind of doing the bullshit that Kuba was referring to? And how do you recognize that, and how do you fix that?
Honestly, it's the majority. That's the problem. There usually is a vision statement or a mission statement somewhere there in company papers, and that's it. There are small, tiny little goals that people set for themselves on the lowest levels of the organization with the teams, but there's nothing in between. Because what happens in between, it's pure politics. So if you have a clear connection from the team goals to the vision and mission, it's sometimes inconvenient because the political gamers that are there, usually hooked in the organizations, can't do their whatever they're doing the best. Yeah? So unfortunately, this is quite often. So what we usually do when we're starting to work with, let's say, an organization or a group of product owners or part of the organization, is first we make sure that we actually have someone who has a clue what's in between, how this mission or vision has been constructed for the whole organization, and then how it's translated, how it's supposed to at least be translated into the small team goals, and then try to connect that something on the bottom to the something on the top, make it clear.
Yeah, and what I'd like to add is, from my perspective, it's like easier to build or define product vision than, for example, company vision, because it's like, I know one quite big company will have a problem with how to define who we are, what is the main goal for us. But for example, when we're starting with a new product, for example, starting with, new test for programmers, and the vision is to, for example, cover 80% of market with, C++ test. It's easier than define that, for example, the main goal for Codility is like to build a better software to test programmers.
You want to add something?
yeah, just to add one thought. Unfortunately, the bigger the organization, the harder it is to have people follow the vision, whether it's company vision or product vision. If you have a small company where there's a CEO who has the product owner, he has a vision, he'll do everything so that the company grows and is making more money, is solving world problems and so on. And then if you have 5 layers of management, and then at the end there's a product owner, his main problem will be to meet his own goals that he has, and at the end of the day get the salary and pay his Swiss franc mortgage. Right. Yeah.
Okay.
I would go as far as to even say that I think that big corporations should be prohibited completely. It should all be like we have now microservices, micro companies, and that's it. Up to 50 people, perhaps.
Up to 10.
Well,
Imagine that
decentralized.
Yeah, that would be great.
And then what?
Okay, that would be great.
Close them.
Yeah, but then these things would be very productive and actually easy to achieve the goal, just because there will be no politics involved. You have the guy who owns this stuff, and you got the people that work on it, right? And in large corporations, the tree structure of the corporation is so huge. There are so many people hired on different positions that their only goal is to survive to the next year and the next
It's like
bonus.
a mafia.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's horrible.
Before we kind of depart too far away, I just wanted to bring us a little bit back, and this will be my last question. Again, if you guys have something, we can ask them questions from the audience. Do you think that tools like V2MOMs or OKRs can help in building products? Do you use such tools in your companies, either in your own companies or companies that you work with or advise? V2MOMs.
Vision, values, method of success, and measures.
So things like to connect.
Those,
to connect.
right.
And I don't know what OKR stands for, but this is another example of this kind of framework where you try to connect the personal goals or team goals with exactly. So, Łukasz, do you use such things?
Yeah, this type of framework is helpful and useful for the company, also in Scrum. But for example, problem is sometimes when people try to define this V2MOM very detailed. It's like spend 2 weeks thinking, how to measure a traffic source. So maybe the goal is to have 1 million people across 30 working days from 5 April to 5 May. And after this quarter, to measure, it's good or it's bad. So it's like framework, okay? Maybe V2MOM is okay because it's like define obstacles, define measures, for example, remind the vision and goals. But for example, maybe not so detailed. It's like only a framework, simple big projects, simple big goals, and that's it.
Okay, so that would be it from what I have prepared. I mean, we will still have time for kind of like wrap-up thoughts at the end, but if anyone has a question, just raise your hand and I'll just come with a mic.
I have a question that a little bit scares me. From your answers, is that clear that to be a great product owner, the only way is to be a CEO? Because this is the only way when you can make true decisions without pissing off the business. Because you can,
Okay. If I can start answering that, no, you don't have to be the CEO. Why? Because a very good product owner is the guy who can handle the politics as well. Okay, so and sometimes it looks like he's shuffling a lot of shit all around, so it doesn't go to developers, but actually and still drive the product forward. But this is that's why the job is very hard. The position is not complex, but it's very hard on people. Okay. It's stressing. It's stressful. It's very very hard position. However, you can do all of that still in a large organization without being the CEO. Although probably somebody will notice this, and sooner or later you will become a manager of some sorts, right?
Or CEO.
Yeah. The CEO here is not that you actually have to have the position of the CEO, is that you have to act like one. You have to be responsible and accountable and responsible for everything connected to that product. So you're responsible.
Everything every time.
Yeah, actually, yeah. Simple.
So my answer is it's not. It's useful. I was a CEO, so maybe it was helpful for me. But it's a role responsible for everything, every time, and be responsible for your success and when you succeed.
And don't do politics unless you have to.
Bingo.
Yeah, thanks for the questions. Thanks for the answers. Any other question from you guys? Okay. So if we don't have any other questions, I'll just invite you to share some closing thoughts. Our main question was, do we really need product owners?
And simple answer is yes.
Yes, I was going to suggest that we start from Łukasz and go towards me, but if you could elaborate more, yes and no is too simple for me.
It's simple, yeah.
So I can elaborate. First of all, it's good to. It's a great thing that you can start actually being part of the IT industry by being a product owner. It's the shortest way to become to go into an IT industry and finally earn a lot of money. And the second thing is actually it makes a lot of sense from the economical perspective, because first of all, it's very difficult to find developers or other team members that would be good at communication. The guys who work with computers and girls who work with computers. They are not really good. Something has got to be wrong with you if you stay by the computer 16 hours a day, right? And on the other hand, so these people are not good, and if they even are good, they do not really appreciate doing this kind of things for a long period of time. So you can get somebody from the management perspective. You can get somebody who is cheaper, or just better, or just enjoys this job more. He can earn the same money as senior architects or developers, doesn't matter. But he enjoys doing this, right? While every other people that are in the software development, QA and DevOps and so on, actually would love to go away from too many communication patterns and so on and so on. So it's a natural division and a natural choice when you have this problem of developers not being good at communication.
Okay. Kate, do we really need product owners?
I have a question to you. Was it a yes or a no?
Yes, and I gave an economical explanation why.
Okay,
Yeah.
I thought it's a yes. I just wanted to hear that.
You want it? I think she wants it on paper.
From you, yes.
But I would rather have people who have all the skills, right? It's just hard to find them.
Just one person and he can do everything. That's cheap.
Okay, Kate, your thoughts?
Yep. Yes, definitely. We do need product owners. We do desperately need good product owners. We don't need monkeys or analysts who are just moving information around. We need people who are accountable for the product, who can actually manage a product, who can work with the product. Who can communicate. That would be a bonus, but if you have a good Scrum Master, you can just basically drag him everywhere with you. That's fine. Sure, your Scrum Master is supposed to help you anywhere. So, yeah, we do need great product owners. We do need. They're very hard to come by in wild. But I just hope you all.
But still easier than Java developers.
Okay.
That's what I have been told.
Okay. Do we need product owners? I don't think it's the right question to ask, because I cannot think of an environment where there is no product owner. There is always someone who will give you requirements. Do we need to recognize that role to be separate? I think yes, that helps a lot. And then if you put up someone who is responsible for the product, he will be responsible and accountable, then the probability to success is much higher.
Okay. Okay, thanks. I'm happy that our provocative questions sparked some interesting discussion. I will just remind our panelists again with us. So we had Łukasz Banach from Codility, Jakub Nabrdalik from For Finance IT, Kate Terleska from Braswillow, and Tomek Szymański from Software Mill. And I'm Michał Prządka, and I was hosting with pleasure. So thanks again for the panelists. Thank you for listening, and see you soon.